Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Property Development Club podcast. I'm John Kenel, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Andrew Crosby. And today we have a special guest, Johnny Gordon from Iconic Construction. Johnny is a builder. He's been in the building industry for a number of years. He started out 16 years old. He started a building apprenticeship, and he's been in the industry ever since. So I'll introduce Johnny a little bit more later on, and we'll have a talk about what he's up to, because he is 3D printing a home from concrete in Hamilton. We'll ask him what that's all about. I also thought we could do a little bit of a market recap, just talk about some of the things we see going on, some of the things in the news. Andrew's got a few stories to tell. It's been a couple of weeks since our last podcast. I think it was the 3rd of November when we had Shane Brealey on. Shane from Simplicity Living, build to rent providers, probably one of the biggest in the country. I learned a lot about build to rent on that talk with Shane. Very experienced guy and very willing to share, which is really cool. I think we've had about 5,000 views on YouTube on that call, which obviously there's quite a few people interested in learning about build to rent. Then we'll have a Q&A session. So all of you guys who've joined live, just put any questions that you've got in the chat. You can ask them later as well when we're talking to Johnny, and just makes it a little bit more fun, bit more interactive, and see what kind of questions you have for him or us. Jasmeet Singh is going to join us. Jasmeet started a development in Hamilton a couple of months ago. I think it's 5 townhouses he's building. He's going to tell us where he's up to and any key milestones he's achieved and challenges that he's faced to get here, and then we'll wrap up. So let's get into a bit of a market recap. The way I summarize the last couple of weeks in the market is probably stability. House prices seem to have kind of leveled off. They've gone up a little bit in some places in the country, in some regions, and they've gone down a little bit in others. But overall, it's flat, but a little more optimistic. Talking to agents in Hamilton, property between 700,000 and 900,000 seems to be moving quite well. Anything really entry level under 600 in Hamilton, which is townhouses and sort of older homes on small plots of land, that's really entry level kind of stuff. That's moving as well. I saw some stats that said investors are only about a fifth of the buyers at the moment. So investors haven't really come back, which is not surprising because rates haven't dropped. And until they really drop, I don't think we're gonna see investors come back. We'll find out next week, won't we? 27th of November is the next interest rate drop. We're expecting the consensus is 50 basis points. And then there's not another meeting until February next year, so a few months. So if people are looking at their own mortgages and what should you do at the moment, I'd say, obviously stay floating now until we find out what happens next week. If there's a 50 basis point cut, that should flow through to mortgage rates relatively quickly. The banks seem quite hungry, so a lot of competition. So the competition is there, but the interest rates actually have to drop before you get the real benefit, right? It's all very well saying there's another 50 coming and maybe another 50 after that, and by the end of next year, what are some of these guys are talking about, Westpac and ANZ, and there's different estimates where the rates are going to be the end of next year. But I mean, you only really care when it hits your bank account, right? When your mortgage payments start reducing, that's when you're like, oh, okay, all right, cool. I can, I'm actually getting the benefit. And then then people start going out and going, actually, maybe I can buy a bigger house, or maybe I can buy a rental property, or whatever it might be.
I was just looking at some news today, and there was an article today. Mortgage rates may not drop much despite OCR cut, experts warn. And then I literally got an email from my wife who passed it on from the bank, who said, yeah, one of your mortgages comes up in December. What are you going to do? So I looked at the rates. So this is live. I don't know if I'm slightly below what's advertised or not, but 6 months, 6.29%, 12 months, 5.79%. Now, the interesting thing is all the rest are between 5.69, actually, and 5.59. So 5 years is at 5.69. And then the lady at the bank says, she goes, she's been advised that the fixed rates were already priced into the OCR review, so not expecting change in the fixed rate coming up. But they called me up saying the same thing last time 2 months ago. But what it means is
that's a little bit.
Yeah. some sort of salesmanship.
I got emails through from ASB as well, and 2 phone calls saying, "Hey, your mortgage is coming up. Do you want to refix?" And they've sent me rates. It's almost, I wouldn't like to say it, but it's almost like they're trying to encourage people to fix now.
Yeah, they are. They are. I'm going to wait to the
which
last
is
day.
a bit cheeky, really.
I'm going to wait to the 11th of December. But what is surprising is now all the right from 12-month through 5-year, there's only a 0.1% change difference. So the banks may have slowed down the expectations on how low it goes.
I think you could get under 5. I mean, if we get another cut in February, and we need rates to drop. Like this guy here, Capital Economics, there was another one. He's talking about OCR coming all the way down from 4.75 today to 2.25 end of next year. I mean, if that happens, that's a massive cut. I mean, who knows if it will, but he's saying house prices have been on a roller coaster ride. They surged nearly 50% from 2019 to 2021 to the peak, and then they've dropped away about 20%, right? As the OCR jacked up rates so quickly. So we're still up over 30 from pre-COVID, but it's getting more affordable. Look, I mean, this is it
was at 7.19. Right.
Yeah.
So that property was at 7.19, only fixed for 6 months. So that's
so
now I'm going to be at 5.7.
You're over 8. You're over 8%. And businesses are 8-9%. It was getting pretty pricey. So so Westpac are talking about 5 to 7% rise next year. So it's better than 0. It's better than -5 or 7.
Well, there's another
it's positive.
Overhang of an interest, this is today, I think, overhang of unsold properties shrinking as number of properties been withdrawn from market declines. So in parts of Auckland, certainly there's a lot of stock. There's also a lot of stock that hasn't quite got onto the market yet, of new stuff, right? Of stuff that's recently completed. But I think it's slowly getting eaten into. Not as quick as I may have expected. So it's going to be a next year story. But,
but it is.
They will go.
It is starting to move, and I mean, it's all about money, right? Almost everyone, when you buy a house, you borrow money. If money's cheap, then you borrow more.
Massive pent up demand as well. Think of all the people who've not been able to afford to buy in the last 2 years because of high interest rates.
Exactly.
So the pent up demand will be quite considerable, especially at the lower end of the market.
Now you can see we're kind of on this chart. We've come off and we're just doing this sideways movement. I mean, the thing is, demand hasn't changed, right? It's got more expensive to borrow money, but people still want to buy a house. Renters still want to buy. Investors are still interested in buying. You just got to make it stack up again. And when rates come down, they'll do that. And one interesting thing I saw this is out of the States.
Jeez.
A record high pile of cash. $7 trillion is sitting in money market accounts, waiting to be deployed. Warren Buffett, what's he up to? He just sold a whole bunch of his Apple shares and others.
He might have $500 billion of that.
He's got hundreds of millions, hundreds of billions. The numbers are too big. I can't. So this means if, at some point if people redeploy funds, yes, they could put some of it into the share market. They're obviously buying Bitcoin. I've got another slide here. But
do you have Bitcoin?
98,000.
Do you have Bitcoin?
I like to try everything. I like to try and stay up with technology. So I did a big study on Bitcoin about 2 or 3 years ago. And I read a bunch of books on it, and I set up wallets, and I transferred money cross chain, and I do all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool, really interesting. It's very complex, but the bottom line, yes, I do have some Bitcoin, and the thing I like about it, I'm not a Bitcoin nut. Like I like gold. But one of the things that Bitcoin
bloody graph.
I know, but one of the things that Bitcoin is doing is teaching people. Once you start going down the rabbit hole, it's teaching people about what's going on with their money, right? And it's the devaluation of dollar. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It's all of this government money printing. Governments are basically buying the ability to do what they want, to bring in their crazy policies, to give money to their mates, and we're paying for it, right? In a silent tax and inflation, and so Bitcoin is a way to take control of your money for it not to be deflated away. So if you were 20 or 30 years old and you're thinking ahead 20 or 30 years, and you're like, hey, how do I save for my future? a lot of these guys are looking at Bitcoin, and I can understand why. Now you've got Trump who's come in and said, right, we're going to make America the crypto capital of the world, right? Why don't they do that? Great. America is the tech epicenter, right? That's where the tech is. It makes perfect sense for them to have crypto as out of the States. I mean, so Bitcoin's gone up, all the meme coins have all gone crazy again. It's a wild ride. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw if it went through 100, maybe 120, and then we had a pullback again. It has these massive.
But that's not financial advice.
No, that's not financial advice. It's not financial advice. Oh, okay. Here's a quick one.
Oh yeah, this is funny.
The councils. Oh, you do you know this one?
Yeah, I got friends who live in Mount Eden and stuff and all that. Yeah, they park exactly where that car is, so you're not over the footpath. You are on the public space, although you've got to mow that. Well, that person's planted their berm, but you got to mow the berm yourself. And the council going along giving people tickets like that, where there's no impediment to a footpath or anything else, and they're saying, well, you can't park in a driveway blocking the driveway. Of course, it's your driveway.
$40 to $70. And one guy got 4 fines delivered in the post on the same day, so he was $280. He's like, what? I've been parking here for the last 10 years, and now you're fining me. But apparently you can park on the berms, so if you see any nice grass or any gardens like that, just park in those. And
if it doesn't have a sign, and there's not many places with a sign, because I saw a sign the other day, I didn't understand what it meant. But yeah, it was arcane rule. It's just common sense, right? Just common sense goes out the window. Simple as that.
Yeah. Oh, we don't do common sense.
Replaced with red tape. So,
Yeah. And where are the cones anyway? If you're parking there should be cones around that car. I'll finish.
Yeah,
what
was this? What is this?
This is a banana taped to the wall.
Yeah, it's $6.24 million.
Someone paid $6.24 million for this piece of artwork. If you ever wanted a more obvious kind of description of what's going on in the financial market today, like what's going on with your money, how worthless money is becoming. If someone's got $6.2 million to pay for a banana taped to the wall, then yeah. All right, that's me. Maybe we should have a chat with Johnny, because people have heard enough of my nonsense today. So, Johnny, you are, as I said, a builder. You've traveled the world playing rugby and building. Sounds pretty cool. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've been up to, and then we'll talk about these 3D printed houses.
Yeah, so we're a construction company in Hamilton called Iconic Construction, building residential townhouses and residential standalone homes and stuff. We did our own development in Hamilton, building a childcare centre which was designed with tilt panels in it. Myself and Nick Lane, that owners of the business, we came across Corrox company that do 3D concrete printing. So we already had the plans consented and we were ready to kick off on this project. We had a chance meeting with Corrox about 3D printing. We thought, heck, let's go and have a look at this place. So we went and checked it out. We were super impressed with it. We thought, if we're going to do it, let's change it on our own project so we've got control of that. So within a week, we had our plans back into council and they were getting reconsented. So that was our first sort of introduction to 3D printing. And there's some pretty steep learning curve went on there through that project, right through from consenting through to how do we get it through engineering processes to learning how to install it and how to do connections to roof stuff. That confirmed that we really believe in it, and this is a way of the future that we can build within New Zealand. So now we're currently building a 167 square metre 3-bedroom home in Rotokaria in Hamilton, and the new subdivision called Bromo Heights, which backs up to Hamilton Zoo. So we're nearing completion on that. Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey so far. We're not in the slightest turned off by it. This is definitely the way that we want to take construction in New Zealand.
Johnny, I've got some photos here. I suggest I'll share the photos, and then Johnny, you can just talk to each one very briefly.
And how did you find the consenting side of it? Was it a bit of a learning curve for the guys at council as well?
Yeah, so we had to go through and we had some preliminary meetings with them to try and get them to understand the process that we were going to go through. Obviously, it's not a standard build, as per se, you would say. So just getting them to get on board with us. which was part of it. So the photo here, it's a Cybe computer, that robot that comes out of the Netherlands. The componentry comes from Germany, and then it ships through to New Zealand here. So basically with that, that was the only computer robot
We can
in
see
New
it now.
Zealand. Only robot in New Zealand until about 3 weeks ago. We've purchased one that's come through and landed in Christchurch. We're planning to set up as well.
So what kind of a learning curve is there to operate it? Because it's not necessarily a building skills, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. So the architect's still in the design process through it. Then it goes into a CAD file to be able to CAD design the wall system that's going to be printed, and then that's loaded into the computer. So basically you have one operator that's operating and looking after the robot, and then you have one person that's near the wall that's been printed and is laying. Basically kind of like brick ties that tie walls together. So the walls there that you can see on the truck there, those are all printed in the factory. And the reason why we print in the factory is because it's in a controlled environment. You've got a dry product, you want to keep dry until you want it wet. You've got consistent power source, you've got water that you need to be able to keep at a certain temperature. Plus New Zealand, we've got really unpredictable weather. So that's the look that they come out in. Those panels, they print in the sizes that you've seen there in about 35, 40 minutes and 12 to 15 mil layers as it's printing through.
Now that's not meant to be straight, is it? You've got some design going on there.
We wanted to show some of the design features of the wall. So on this one, we've created like a ripple effect, so like a water droplet dropping into a pond and then spreading out from that. So pretty incredible what you can do with the technology to create different shapes and stuff. And this is a really good example of it showing in through the light there with it. So once the ceiling's on through there, we'll have some feature lights that just shine down onto that wall. You can see the some of the pipe work coming up out of the floor would be the kitchen island goes, be right in the main sort of living kitchen area of the house. But if you're really into surfing and you wanted a big wave on your internal wall, that's well within the realms of being able to print onto your walls. So this is looking at sort of where we're kind of getting close to the stage of it now. So it's a mono-pitched roof house. So at the front here is the high part of the roof and it's sloping to the back about 300. It's 167 square meters, 3-bedroom place. Got some pretty cool curves and shapes in it. You can see just at the front, just in behind that lamp post there, that's a big U-shaped print, and that really pushed the limitations of the printed on its reach and capabilities to be able to do. But we were determined not to have a join going down the middle of that big scullery part for the kitchen. So this is some of the actual walls that have gone into the house. These are some of the smaller curved ones. We do have a parapet that goes around the top on each end of the house. So these were actually showing that they're going to go, and they were placed on top of those walls that you saw earlier. And then these ones, because they weren't inside the internal envelope, they were just filled with concrete, not having foam inside of the walls like the previous ones that.
So the external has foam insulation. Is that inside? Is that right?
Yeah, so all the walls that are within the living space or in part of the structure have a polypropylene foam that's shot into the wall in the factory. And within that, we create a column that allows a starter bar to come up out of the floor that ties into the wall. And that small portion is filled with concrete, and probably 80%. As you can see in that picture, see it's hollow in middle there. It's about 140 void. Probably 80% of that is all filled with foam, and then we create a small concrete structure inside of that.
So is there rebar on the structural walls?
Yep, so there's no horizontal bars. There's vertical bars that go down. So the vertical bars come up from the starters and they're spaced at about 800 centres, and the rest is filled with foam. And then we have a small bond beam that goes around the top.
What's this robot worth, do you reckon?
So robots, there's no change out of 500 grand to get it into New Zealand. So that's landed in New Zealand. So it's coming from the Netherlands. So this is it getting offloaded off a high-ebb truck. So we did the Waikato Home and Garden Show probably a month ago, I guess it was now. And this was just, we packed it up, brought it in from the factory, and Yeah, it's about 4.5 ton, the weight of it there to be able to move. So you can see there with the tracks on it, it can do printing on site, but the reason why we don't, it's really inefficient to be able to do printing on site. And probably most of you have seen in some form, if you've seen 3D concrete printing either in the States or in parts of Asia, a lot of them are using gantry cranes rather than a fixed robot like this. And the rationale with that is that they have a really consistent weather. You know, if you're printing in Texas, you don't get the rain like we have. And plus, they don't have to have construction joints every 6 meters like we do in New Zealand. This is quite a good one, actually, because usually in New Zealand, you'd see on there, if you go back to that last one, Andrew, there, you would have, so at this stage on a timber build, you would have, back on that last slide, you'll have nets in place. So all your timber walls would be up like that, and then you'd have nets in between it to be able to do. And so if we went for nets in here, wouldn't have given us a working platform to be able to work off. So a real cool success story is a company called WorkDeck, which is out of Huntley, and they've designed this working platform to be able to work off. So it works as your safety net, but it actually allows you to work off it. So we could do any of the work that we needed to. We installed all our trusses and all our roof structure, and then that came down. So it was they would definitely be using that on every printed house we build. So common question that gets asked is obviously, how do we get services into the wall? So when I talked about foam being in the walls earlier, so before we put the concrete fill of concrete in, we basically got like a 30 mil pipe, and the foam's really quite soft. So we could just push the rod down through the foam to create a void. We drilled then 2 holes into the wall to be able to create the pocket for the electrical socket. And then we put a conduit that was going to go down through into it. So all the electrical we were able to get into the walls, which was really cool. We really liked that. The plumbing is still a work in progress, I'll admit on that. And we eventually will be able to get that into the wall as well.
And this is it going up, right?
Yeah, so this is it going up. Yep.
So you print the panels in a shed and truck them to site.
And
do they need bracing, or can they almost stand freestanding?
No, so you'll see, I think it's one of those previous ones that was showing that there was some props you have to do. So
right.
Basically, each panel has 2 lifting eyes in it. Basically, it's just a hole that we've created through the panel. We put a 20 mil threaded rod through it, and then we can screw on 2 lifting eyes. So all of the panels for this house, so there's 36 panels in this house. The truck backed in where the yellow skip bin there is on the right. So it landed there, and it was able to, this was a large high-ab truck, was able to reach to the road to be able to get the ones off the trailer and ones off its deck, and it could place all the panels within the house. The only one that we had with the bells going on in the high-ab was the left-hand corner here by the front door, where it was right at its maximum reach and capacity for the high-ab. But yeah, those panels, 36, were placed in 2 days.
So why would you use 3D printed panels as opposed to just tilt panels that we use today?
Yep. So you get real design freedom with 3D concrete printing. So your design capabilities are endless, really, in what you're wanting to do. I always say in it, when people ask that sort of question, you can build anything out of traditional building, but it does take time, skill, and money, and often quite a lot of the last one of that, to be able to do things that are out of the normal way of constructing. So it gives real, and we've got 2 architects on board with us at the moment, and it really gives them freedom to be able to, how can I create things that are different and nice and cool? And yeah, that's a really neat picture of it.
Okay. And cost wise, in comparison, if you were comparing to tilt panel, for example?
Yeah, so probably easiest way for us to compare directly across with it is with the wall system, because basically we're replicating our wall systems. If you have a house that's plasterboard inside, everything in between, brick veneer on the outside, give or take, that system for it completed, painted and everything is about $600 a square meter. Currently, we're sitting between 675, 690 a square metre for our system, for the 3D concrete printed system to be able to go in. The real added value, I guess, is the speed of build. Traditionally, at the moment, a house similar to what we're building will take anywhere between 8 to 9 months from start digging on site to handing the keys over to a client. We're sitting probably at about 4.5 months to be able to have this show home completed in. Ultimate goal, as we get more experience with it and as we get more accustomed to it and understand the processes more clearly, that we were aiming to get this down to 3 months. And obviously, that's where the real added value comes for the client, in terms of that they can get off construction finance much sooner. They can not have to be paying for rent. They can actually, if they're going to rent it, they can start getting that yield from the rent back much sooner.
Yeah, a little bit of research I did in there was a development they're doing in the States. They were actually just building like 15 or 20 homes on sections on site with that gantry system.
Yeah.
One of the issues they had was they could only speed up so far until the sub trades were holding them up.
Right.
Because I guess you've still got to put in windows and you've got to put in plumbing and all that type of thing. But I mean, 3 months is still a reasonable amount of time, though. It's not like if you wanted to do it in 3 weeks, you'd struggle.
Here's the world's largest concrete subdivision, concrete printed, 3D printed subdivision, 100 homes in Texas.
Wolf Ranch, it's called.
Wolf Ranch.
Yep.
So, I'm always a bit skeptical. I first wrote about 3D printing in 2014, and already then it was the next big thing, Johnny. It was coming up. Me and John had a chat about this, and it's like I just did a Google, and all of a sudden there's that 100 house development in Texas is just completed. And I sort of ignore most of the Chinese stuff because, they can put 1 million people onto a site and do all special things if they want to make a video out of it. But it's slowly getting there. So are you the first guys to do a concrete house in New Zealand, 3D printed?
Yeah. Yep. So Co-Rocks are the company that brought the technology into New Zealand. They supplied a builder in Auckland, and there's been a 260 square metre house built in Auckland out of it. That was for a client, which makes it difficult for anyone to be able to go and have a look at and be able to see what that house is like. We're the first show home that's been built in New Zealand, and we'll be opening that in early to mid-December to be able to invite people to come in and see it and have to experience what it's like in a 3D concrete printed house.
And you must have at least one competitor, although I'm not sure if they're doing housing, because next to where my daughter goes to dance, every time I park up there each week, there's a new 3D concrete printed piece of furniture or detail that they've stuck on in the yard.
Yep. So there is one other company that's doing it, and they're looking to try and do it on a gantry crane.
Right.
How that's going to go, but I don't know if they've built a house yet as such out of it. But I know they've done some smaller projects type things that they've printed. So
how do you meet insulation standards, like in the South Island, for example? I mean, there's only so much foam you can put in, or do you have some kind of like a special additives or something for foam, or how do you deal with it?
So the foam, the R rating for the walls have been verified at 3.7. So really good thermal rating in there. We know concrete has a good thermal mass to it as well, but obviously that's not included in that. It's just purely on insulation. The other real benefit that all the walls that go in, all the internal ones are insulated as well. And part of that is because it forms that structure inside for us to be able to make the concrete structure. So we're really curious to see, and we don't know yet, but we're curious to see what the temperature swings are like in the house, and we're really keen to see what the acoustic ratings are like between rooms. So, as everyone knows, if you've got a bedroom that backs onto a toilet, every time the toilet flushes, that's pretty noisy. But with this, you've got concrete walls internally, and that's full with foam as well. So we're really looking forward to it.
Because Johnny, houses are quite fiddly, right? I'm doing some work at the moment on big sheds. Could this potentially replace precast panels in sort of large format retail and industrial type projects? Can you do this 6, 7, 8 meters high?
You would have to stack them. So overseas in Dubai and stuff at the moment, they're doing an 8-story building out of 3D printed. They're doing that actually on site as well. Hence nice, warm, dry, hot weather. They seem to work 20 hours a day there. But so they're printing the walls and everything, and then doing the the concrete floors between the floors and then printing the next walls again. So it's showing that it can be done. We've got a project in Hamilton that we want to potentially do next year, which will be a 2-story building, light commercial, and we're wanting to 3D print that as well. So, yep, they can be stacked and go vertically. I would love to say that, yes, we would be able to compete with tilt panels at the moment, but because they're so mass produced in New Zealand and stuff, the cost point would be the barrier to us getting to that level.
On the thermal mass, my home has cast in situ concrete walls. Was a huge task building them, but I can say that the temperature of the sort of the main living area where the walls are, it hardly changes. We don't have a heat pump. We have a fire because we just want one in the main sort of lounge area. But yeah, it's incredible. But then our walls are, they're really thick, and they've got a insulation panel in them as well. Yeah, I mean, concrete is it is pretty cool. Yeah. Electrical sounds like you got sorted. Plumbing, there's no reason why that. Would you slot the walls into place and then before the foam put the plumbing in, put the pipe work in?
The part that we couldn't quite work out is how we'd get the mixers into the wall, because you actually need to be able to fix that back to something. So you can cut the hole out, no problem. You could run the piping down, but we couldn't work out how we were going to be able to have something solid in behind the wall that we could actually fix the mixer too. So we'll come up with an idea, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, an obvious one would be like an aluminium type plate on the outside, something that looked quite nice, or something you put a nice cover on.
Yeah, so we've done that now with the pipes gone in the outside of it. We've been able to cap them and been able to line it up with the joinery and with the tiling and the showers and stuff. So it was an idea that we actually found from the States, which was quite good, and we thought we'll pinch that.
Dan's got a question on fire rating qualities.
Fire rating? Yeah, well, basically it's concrete. So
right. That's good.
It's not going to burn. Yeah. So you would have a pretty good, you'd probably lose your trusses and your cabinetry inside your house. There's a pretty good chance you're still going to have your walls standing up. Yeah, definitely.
And another one, Dan.
How thick did you say they were?
How what, sorry?
How thick? Because there's actually there's two walls, isn't there?
Yep, two walls, wall. So it's 210 mils wide, and each width of the two walls before it turns back is 35 mils. So you got 70 mils of concrete on the side, and then a 140 void in the middle that's filled with fine concrete structure.
We've got another question here from another Dan, and I'll expand on it. He asks, who are your architects? But my question is, how did the architects get educated into this?
So I guess we'd been playing with it for quite a while and talking to different people and everything. So the childcare centre that we built, I'll be honest, we hadn't built a childcare centre before. So we engaged an architect out of Auckland to be able to do that. For that one, to try and get it through consent, the easiest way to do it was through a concrete block masonry system. I won't go into the detail of it because it's changed significantly since then, but that was the easiest way for us to be able to get it through and get consent. Since then, we're working with 2 architects, and we've just gone through and we've talked to them, and gone through the process, which we did with the sub-trades as well. This is what we're looking to do. Are you on board? Are you excited about it? What engineer can we get on to help us? And is it solution focused, not problem focused, to be able to get through and design it? Yeah. So we've got 2 that we're working with currently that have got developing a pretty good understanding of it and wanting to work with us on it.
What's your vision then? What's Iconic's vision for 3D? What's your, there must be a piece of paper somewhere where you've got, right, this is our 3-year goal or our 5-year goal for these 3D printed houses.
Yep, we see this as the future of construction in New Zealand. We want to be the leaders in that across New Zealand, not just in Hamilton. So to start that ball rolling, we're Iconic Construction in Hamilton, and we build, like I said earlier, what we build, but we've launched Iconic 3D, which is printed construction in Christchurch. So we have a robot in Christchurch as well now. So that's where I am currently here now at the moment, and trying to see how we can meet with investors, developers on trying to be able to build 3D concrete printed places in here. Long term, I guess one first step would be to see how we could establish ourselves here and then see how we can progress to different regions across New Zealand. For one robot, I'd love, and this could be in multiple locations, would love to see that you would go and set a factory up on site, a temporary factory, and you're looking to print 200 plus houses. And if you're wanting to look at efficiency and speed and cost saving, that's where you're going to really get it, of being able to printing 24/7 on site.
What's your forecast cost that you can pump these things out at in today's dollars?
So we're going to be around the 4,500 a square meter in today's market, be able to get those built. We would like to bring that down significantly as we go across, being able to do it. But that's the raw build cost, not the benefits that you're going to receive from speed of build and stuff on it as well.
Well, there's speed of build. There's the ability to handle the complex designs and customization, which I think is pretty cool, because most of the houses, certainly a lot of the houses we're building in New Zealand are pretty basic, right? Because we're all trying to keep costs down because houses are so unaffordable. But if you could keep the cost down and do interesting designs, would be a big benefit. But then there's a third thing that you haven't mentioned, but I imagine you're minimizing a lot of waste, right? I mean, if you're making a standard wall, you've got offcuts of jib, you've got extra insulation, you've got offcuts of whatever exterior cladding you're using.
So on a standard build house, 180 squares, you roughly go through about 3 skips per site for that build. Currently on the house that we got, and bearing in mind we're on home straight, so cabinetry's going in, we've used 1 skip really on it to be able to do. So waste is really good. But also you've got a big thing, when houses in New Zealand don't go past much more than 50 to 70 years life cycle before they need huge renovations or they're demolished. That's when the houses go to landfill and stuff. The concrete house, you're much like Europe and Asia, where you've got 200, 300, 400-year-old houses. Sure, they've got new roofs, they've got new windows gone into it, but your basic structure is there, and it's multi-generational living rather than just a short, in reality, it's a short term, 50 to 70 years. So you're lucky to get 2 generations of a family go through the same house.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a very good point. So what do you think it'd take for 3D printing and offsite manufacturing to become more mainstream in New Zealand? I mean, is it something the government needs to be doing? What does the industry need to be doing?
Someone wanting to come on board and take a punt with us to make it happen. It's going to take, whether that's government or whether that's a private investment type thing. I really believe that if we can get some traction of getting some terrace townhousing or subdivision where we're actually doing a number of houses and you can show the benefits and speed of it like they're doing in America, that will really start gaining some traction. So, we appreciate we're a first mover and adopter in it, but we want to make it happen.
So could you mix it? Like, I'm thinking about, I've got a few plans for townhouses coming up over the next couple of years. Is there any reason why you couldn't even have ground floor in concrete and then the second floor we do in timber? Or
of course you could. Or intertenancy walls. I've talked to a developer in Auckland. They were doing 100 places. I was about 6 months too late to be able to meet with them because they did all tilt panels between it and stuff. But so that can be. We looked at that as as a part option, and it might be higher end bespoke houses that people want a real different look to their place, that they want to have different patterns and designs in their walls and shapes and sizes and
Yeah, no, I think it's a neat idea. Yeah,
interesting to see how it evolves.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it will be. It will be interesting to see how it evolves. All right.
Yeah, so I met with Canterbury University yesterday, the engineering department down here, and so they're interested in trying to see how they can utilise the robot here. A lot of seismic in Christchurch, so they've already been working with them to try and see how we can get further testing done and further proof of how it works. So basically, the testing we've done so far, it's 4 times the strength of a timber conventional framed wall. that's cladded with cedar on the outside and jib on the inside.
How hard is it to get someone up to speed on doing it? So like a qualified builder, for example, how long would it take them to be comfortable running that machine?
Well, you probably get someone trained in 3 weeks to be able to utilize and doing the prints on it. Yeah, probably three to 4 weeks, and then start with small. You can print garden furniture, you can print seating, you could do a lot of your testing on that and getting comfortable with doing it and what tricks might be involved in it. So, obviously,
So the engineer,
okay,
doesn't need producer statements, obviously. Like,
yeah,
it's got engineers producer statements for the panels.
So all the panels, it's an engineered design system.
Right.
We're trying to get brands appraisal on the latest version of the walls at the moment. That's anyone that's been involved with brands knows it's pretty slow and arduous process, but yeah, that will happen again too. But
it shouldn't be a slow and arduous process, though, should it? It should be.
It certainly shouldn't. No.
Yeah, no. Mr. Red Tape, block that red tape out. So
yeah.
Is that just because they ask for lots more information, or they're not sure that it takes so long?
Yep. And then you provide that information, and then they want you at your expense to be able to print some more walls in this particular size and this particular testing on it. So, but we'll get there. You just want to make it happen. So,
just thinking again about use, I was going to do some townhouses with it. There's no reason why I couldn't line a room still, right? If I wanted to put jib board on the inside and I wanted, didn't want it all to, because that concrete looks quite cool, but you might not want it in the whole house.
Yep. So in the show home, we plastered the master bedroom, and purely just for the fact to be able to show what that would look for. We didn't go for like a level 4 finish, like super smooth, because it would contrast too much with what the concrete walls look like.
Yeah.
It's plastered, so it's flat, but it's a bit more of a rustic look to it rather than complete smooth finish. But yeah, you could do those sort of things. We were adamant in this one that we didn't want to use any timber framing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
So we just thought we want to be able to show that it can be done all out of 3D. So what we did do for between one bedroom and the master bedroom, instead of printing a wall, we've done it all out of cabinetry. So the wardrobe actually forms one of the walls that goes into the master bedroom. And part of that is around, we're just looking at seeing how that would cost out between cost of the 3D wall and cost of the cabinetry and speed of installation and stuff on it. So
very cool. Very cool. Thank you very much, Johnny. That's been really interesting. I've learned a bit about how that works. And actually, I think the biggest thing is probably my takeaway is it's less complicated than it looks.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of benefits, but it's not a super hard battle to get to the benefits.
So
you guys have gone and done it, right? You've gone and built what you said you're going to build, and you've got some robots there, and there's 2 in the country now. And good luck to you and everything else.
Anyone wanting to build out of 3D is more than happy to give me a shout.
Yeah, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Easiest through is our iconic construction website. So my details are the contact phone number on there. Email that will come directly through to me. We haven't got Iconic 3D set up in Christchurch properly yet, but that will happen. So everything will just come through Iconic Construction.
Okay, Iconic Construction. Cool. That sounds great. Very good. If we've got a couple of minutes left, Jasmeet, are you on the call?
No. So hey, thanks, Johnny, for that. No, Jasmeet has texted me. He had to leave. He must be selling. Cool. He must be selling another house. He's given me an update. Yep. Okay. So
foundations and drainage, right?
He's got total 4 weeks from 14th of October to 14th of November. Total of 19 working days work. So in 19 days, he's demolished the old house, cleared the site, sorted out council wastewater upgrade. He's lucky. Excuse me. Dug out the foundations, sand pads done, inspections passed, rain smart system, stormwater and ground, and inspection passed, backfilled and 100% fencing finished, drainage done, inspections passed, foundation, pre-pour plumbing and foundation engineering. The frame's been delivered on Monday, 25th of November. So she's going pretty fast if I reverse engineer that into a program. My gosh. And I can't bring up any photos because it's too hard, but it's all go on his slabs laid on 14th of November. But literally, that's actually, a house was there on 14th of October and the slabs laid on 14th of November.
Nice.
So he's nailed the civil side. There you go.
Excellent, excellent. Well done, Jasmine. Hopefully that that continues for you next month as well. Well, once the frames go up, that's always nice. Then you really you see the building going up. Excellent. All right. Have you got any more questions? Any of your live listeners? Any?
Oh, there was a quick one. I
would
think
like
we've
to
covered.
contribute?
We've covered it. Yeah. So any other? Should we
Okay.
open it to the floor for any other questions, John? 2 minutes or
Yep, sure.
any burning questions from anyone in the who's online? Big news. Just while we wait, big news in Auckland over the last week, John, and we know it's affected Hamilton. Is Watercare came out with a map, basically saying 30 to 40% of the city you can't. We don't know if we've got capacity for your development, even though we've given you resource consent. I'm going to give her a mention, Kirsty Merriman. She gets into the detail quick, but she literally pulled together an activist group, basically, a public interest group, she calls it, and forced Watercare to release those maps. And it's big news up here, and it's extreme. One guy's got 21 sites affected. So everyone's still working through the damage and the potential implications, and it might not be as bad as everyone's first thought. But what happened is a few months ago, people started receiving letters in the mail saying your engineering approval has been declined. There's no wastewater capacity in your area. So once again, New Zealand's infrastructure needs a kick boost. So I hope the government get onto it and help everyone out. I think they've raised the debt ceiling. I heard something today about raising the debt ceiling. So yeah,
well, we need to actually start seeing some change though. Like I've been at a couple of different things recently, non-property type events, and people are like, "Oh, things must be going better for you guys, eh? Easier to get consents." And I'm like, "No, it's the hardest that it's ever been. The only thing government seem to be, they're saying the right things, and I hope they do the things that they're saying and around the RMA and so on. But right at this point in time, we have seen zero benefit in terms of consenting. It is as hard as it's ever been. And we have those whole red zones in Hamilton. There are whole areas of the city where you can't develop at all. I've got one site sitting vacant. We removed the house. We were ready to go. And now we have a vacant site that we're sitting on, and they don't know if there'll be infrastructure for it for 10 years. It's right next to Waikato Hospital, like huge demand in that area, and you can't develop. It's mind-boggling.
John, we've got a question here. If you're forecasting price increases, are you pricing in sales revenue escalation to your FISOs?
No.
Do you? No, because you don't. The logic is, guys, you do today's values and today's costs without escalation.
There are a number of reasons why you wouldn't do it, but one of them is, let's say that you're going to do 10 houses and they're 500,000 each. All right, so that's $5 million. Then you go, okay, there's going to be a 5% increase. So that's 25,000 per house. So 250,000 extra. It could make a difference of whether or not you do the development, that kind of money, right? So or put it another way, if you use enough price escalation, and maybe you go, okay, well, 2 years of price escalation, because I'm not going to start right away. So I'm going to add 10%. So it's 50 grand per. So that's $500,000 extra revenue. Just about every site you look at is going to be, yep, green, go buy it.
Until you talk to the bank and they say, can you have a valuation, please?
Yeah. And look, and the other way, I just look at it. Hey, if you end up making more money and you get that surprise, like, oh shucks, I just made another $250,000. Well, that's awesome. That's great. That's a kind of surprise you want. The other way around is the one you want to avoid. Yes. No, I wouldn't. Thank you for that question. That's a good question.
There's a lot of assumptions in the FISO, and putting escalation in is just creating a real big, dangerous assumption.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
No other questions, John? No other questions?
Cool.
The Property Development Club. The Property Development Club's still growing. It's growing.
It is.
Growing. High 300s now. So that's exciting. So that's good.
That is good.
So everyone, tell your mates, tell your friends if they're interested in property development, because the market's going to come back. There's a few brick walls and roadblocks at the moment, but when it turns, she turns quick.
And we need more housing, and we especially need more affordable housing.
Buffett's only got 325 billion, John. That's his cash pile. That's his cash pile. It's got 300.
Just a little pile.
Oh, jeez. That's who you need to talk to, Johnny.
Yeah, that's certainly who would be good to talk to. Even a little smidgen of that would be nice.
Boy, you could do a lot with that. It's quite scary that he's got it sitting in cash. You think what you could do with it. Yeah. All right. Well, look, hey, thank you very much for everyone taking part today, especially you, Johnny. I wish you all the best. And, I actually want to come and I want to come and have a look at your show home
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Actually,
Please do. Yeah,
And-
it's got the address on the website where the location is. So if, if
Okay.
people want to come and have a look at it, more than welcome in sort of late December or early next year. Definitely.
Brilliant. That sounds really good. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I expect we'll have another call before Christmas. I'm actually off to Hawaii this weekend with the family for a week for a little sneaky getaway before Christmas. But yeah, we'll try and do another call when I get back. There's certainly plenty going on, plenty to talk about. Excellent. Thank you very much.
There'll be more drama coming. Right.